Okay, so now we're going to do the second half of the Unit 1 test review. And so beginning with question number 9, it says, which of the following models correctly classifies the set of numbers below? And so I have -6, 0, 4 halves, 75 hundredths, -3 tenths, and 3. So looking at choice A, my whole numbers seem to be good with 0 and 3, but then my integers, I have a -6 and then -3 tenths. And because it's -3 tenths, that's a decimal, then that actually will not work. And so that's going to automatically disqualify this answer choice. And so we know that it's not A. Looking at B, so I have rationals, that looks okay. Integers, running into the same thing, so that doesn't work. Plus, they're not nesting anyway, so if we notice that, that wouldn't work as well. Answer choice C, my rationals, it looks to be okay. So I have 75 hundredths, I have -3 tenths. Integers looks to be okay with -6. And then my whole numbers, I have 3, 0, and then 4 halves. We know that if we simplify that, that's going to be the same as 2, and 2 is a 2 is a whole number, so that one would work. But just to be sure, let's look at answer choice C. And so answer choice C, I can see that the nesting is wrong, so my whole numbers is on the outside. So looking at the way that they have this Venn diagram, this would mean that all rational numbers are integers and all integers are whole numbers. And we know that that's not true, so then my only valid answer choice for number 9 would be C. All right, looking at number 10. Number 10 says, the depths of various divers are shown in the table below. And so which of the following is true based on the information provided? So we've read through the different divers, John, Barb, Oscar, Chantel, and their depths. And so reading through the answer choices, it's wanting to know who is the lowest and why. And so the easiest way to tell who is the lowest would be to put these on a number line. So quickly I'm going to just sketch a number line here and put them on the number line in order. So I know my largest number is -43 and 8 tenths. Then I have -44, -50 and 1 tenth, and -50 and 2 tenths. So looking at my graph or my number line, I can see where I've graphed these, and I know that as my numbers go to the right, they become larger or more positive. As they go to the left, they become smaller or more negative. And so then my smallest number is going to be my -50 and 2 tenths. And that's going to help me eliminate a couple of answer choices right off the bat. So I can see that C and D will not work. So I know that John is in fact the lowest, and I see his distance there. And so we see John is the lowest because he is 50 and 2 tenths feet from sea level. Okay. John is the lowest because he is -50 and 2 tenths feet from sea level. So my only difference here is one is negative and one is positive. And we know that distance is always going to be positive. When we talked about absolute value, we talked about the absolute value is the distance from any number to 0 on a number line. And we're talking about distance from sea level, which would be our 0. So that's distance from 0. So this is an absolute value problem. And so because it's absolute value, it has to be a positive number. So then my answer choice here would be A. Number 11, which expression matches the diagram on the number line? So if I look at my number line, starting at 0, I jump back. So 1, 2, 3. So I'm jumping back -3. And I'm doing that 1, 2, 3 times. So that's 3 jumps of -3. And so we said that of is a fancy math term that means multiplication. So if I'm multiplying 3 jumps of -3, then I'm going to look here at my answer choices. And so -3 jumps of 3, that's not correct. -3 jumps of -3, no, that's not what we did. 3 jumps of -3, so that looks like it matches. And then 3 jumps of 3, and so that's not what we did either. And so we can also look and see that we landed at -9. Does my answer equal -9? 3 times 3 is 9. Positive times a negative is a negative, so that also works. And so our correct answer is going to be C. All right, and so the next one says, on Friday morning, the temperature outside was -5 degrees. By noon, the temperature had reached 15 degrees. What was the change in temperature from morning to noon? So the easiest way to do this would be to graph this on a number line. And so -5, and we know that it got up to 15. I can put my 0 there just so I have all complete information. And so I'm looking here, I started out at -5 and I ended up at 15. So I need to know what my distance is between those two. And so from -5 to 0 was 5. And then from 0 to 15 is 15. And 5 plus 15, so that entire distance is 20. And so 20 degrees is one of my answer choices. Another way that we could do it is we could say that -5 degrees plus something gives me 15, or if I ended at 15 minus my -5, and so that's what we're looking for. So 15 minus -5. So if I have a minus -5, you plus it, plus a positive, so 15 plus 5 equals 20, and that's still going to give me that same answer. Question 13. The table shows the altitude at 4 markers on a hiking trail. The question is, which of the following represents the change from 1 kilometer to 4 kilometers? So again, best way to do this would be to plot it on a number line. From 1 kilometer, I have 22 meters, and then at 4 kilometers, I have -2. And so again, I'll put my 0 on here. You don't have to, but it just makes it a little bit easier to see exactly what we're doing. So my change from 2 to 22, so I'm measuring that distance. And so this distance here, my absolute value here is 2, and then here is 22. So then my total distance would be 24 meters. And so then when I look here, so distance is always going to be positive, so the only valid answer choice would be letter D, 24 meters. Question 14, graph the integer -6 and its opposite. So -6 and then the opposite of -6, which we know is going to be +6. So those are the two values that I'm looking for. And so A, I have -6, yes, but that one doesn't work. -6, yes, that doesn't work. -6 and opposite -6 or +6. So we're good there, and then just opposite -6, but I don't have -6. So it says there to graph -6 and its opposite, so the only valid answer choice then would be C. Number 15 says find the product of 9 and -6, or 9 times -6. And so for just a second, I'm going to not worry about the negative, and I'm just going to do 9 times 6. And so 9 times 6 is 54. And then looking at my Triforce method, I have +9, -6. So +9, -6. So then my answer has to be a negative. So then my correct answer choice would be C, negative 54. And then the last one is find the quotient of 108 divided by negative 2. So if I wrote it out like this, 108 divided by negative 2, so this is going to make it a little bit easier for me to figure out what goes where inside of my fraction, or my division box rather. So if I turn that into ice cream, then I see that inside my freezer goes the ice cream, so that's 108 inside the freezer. My cones, I can leave those out on the counter and they're going to be fine. So my 2 is going to go out there, and for right now I can just not worry about that negative. Don't forget, we got to go back and figure out if my answer is positive or negative, but for now we're just going to leave it alone. And then 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. And then I'm going to bring down my 8. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. And then that's my answer so far, 54. And then I need to figure out, is it positive or negative? So looking at my Triforce, I have a positive 108 divided by a negative. So a positive divided by a negative, and then that's going to leave my answer as negative. So then negative 54, and then D will be my correct answer choice. So very important, once you solve it, make sure you know if it's positive or negative. And also just a last reminder, if you recall on the Friday's assignment that Sparky loves chocolate or chocolate fried bananas, so that last question there, that multiplication one that nobody wanted to do, multiplication and division, so that one looked like a really good test question, so you definitely want to look at that and make sure that you understand how to do that to make sure we're fully prepared for our test.